Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that your entire life is controlled by a single ruler. Every law you follow, every word you speak, every place you travel is watched, measured, and judged. If you lived in China under Qin Shi Huang, this would not be an exaggeration, it would be your reality. Over 2,000 years ago, during the rise of the Qin dynasty, daily life changed in ways that were both remarkable and terrifying. For the first time, much of China was unified under one emperor. Roads were built, writing systems were standardized, trade became easier. But this stability came at a heavy cost, and for ordinary people, survival depended on obedience. If you were born into this world, your life would likely begin in a farming village. Most people were peasants who worked the land, growing crops such as millet, wheat, and rice. Your days would start before sunrise and end long after dark. There was little freedom to choose your path. Your work, your taxes, and your responsibilities were decided by the state. The emperor's government believed that strict control created order, and this belief shaped every part of daily life. Laws were harsh and unforgiving. Even small crimes could lead to severe punishment. Stealing, failing to report a crime, or speaking against authority could result in forced labor, exile, or execution. One of the most defining features of this period was the intense focus on law and discipline. The ruling philosophy was known as legalism, which taught that people were naturally selfish and needed strong rules to maintain order. Under this system, fear was considered more reliable than trust. Rewards were given for loyalty, but punishments were swift and public. If someone in your family broke a law, you could be punished as well. This created an atmosphere where neighbors watched each other carefully, and silence often felt safer than honesty. At the same time, the empire was undergoing massive construction. If you were a young man, there was a real chance you would be taken from your home to work on state projects. Millions of laborers were forced to build roads, canals, defensive walls, and imperial palaces. One of the most famous of these projects was the early Great Wall. Workers carried heavy materials across mountains and deserts in brutal conditions. Many died from exhaustion, hunger, or disease. Families might never see their sons or husbands again. These projects strengthened the empire, but they also created deep suffering. Taxes were another constant pressure. Farmers had to give a large portion of their harvest to the state. In years of poor weather, this could mean hunger or starvation, yet refusing to pay was not an option. Officials traveled through villages to collect grain and enforce rules. Corruption and fear were common. Some officials were fair, but others abused their power, knowing the law was on their side. Despite these hardships, life was not only defined by fear. There were moments of stability and progress. Roads connected distant regions, allowing goods and ideas to move more easily than before. Standard weights, measurements, and coins made trade more predictable. Even the writing system was unified, helping communication across a vast territory. These changes laid the foundation for future Chinese civilization. For merchants and skilled workers, this could mean opportunity and growth. Still, the emperor's control extended beyond the physical world. He sought to shape thought and belief. Books that challenged his authority were banned, and some were destroyed. Scholars who resisted were punished. The goal was not only to rule the land, but to control the future. Loyalty to the state came before family, tradition, or personal belief. This created tension, as many people struggled to balance obedience with their own values. Religion and superstition also played a role in daily life. The emperor feared death and searched for immortality. Stories tell of expeditions sent across the seas to find magical elixirs. Meanwhile, ordinary people relied on local traditions, ancestor worship, and rituals for protection. In a world filled with uncertainty, these practices offered comfort. If you lived in this time, your safety would depend on your ability to remain invisible. The safest life was a quiet one. Work hard, obey the law, avoid attention. Speaking too boldly or questioning authority could bring disaster. Yet rebellion was never far away. The harshness of the system created resentment, and after the emperor's death, revolts spread across the land. The dynasty that had unified China so quickly also collapsed just as fast. Looking back, this period appears both impressive and brutal. It shaped the structure of Chinese government, influenced law and administration, and left behind monumental achievements. But for the average person, daily life was uncertain and demanding. Stability came with sacrifice. Order came with fear. When we imagine living under the first emperor, it is tempting to focus only on the grand achievements, the walls, the armies, the empire. Yet the true experience would have been much simpler and more human. Long days in the fields, constant pressure to obey, fear of punishment, small moments of peace with family and community. It reminds us that history is not only made by rulers and generals, it is lived by ordinary people adapting to the systems around them, trying to survive, provide, and hope for a better future. Under the first emperor, life would have been defined by discipline, endurance, and uncertainty. Some would have seen progress, many would have seen suffering. All would have felt the weight of a new and powerful state. This was life in early imperial China. This was survival under absolute rule. This was life in the working past.